Hello and welcome, guys, to another episode of the Fair One podcast. We will be obviously going over that fight on the weekend, Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya. What a fight it was, man. It didn't have as much action. Like if you go back and you look back at the fight, it didn't have the most action in the fight as far as strikes landed, etc. But in terms of what that meant and the technical battle that was taking place and the tactical battle that was taking place between both those guys and at such a high level, and for such a massive underdog like Sean to win, fucking incredible, man. I was on the edge of my fucking seat. I take my hat off completely to Sean Strickland. Nobody picked it. I will say, and you can go back and check, I picked how he would win if he was going to win, but I did not pick him to win. We have with us, as always, to do the stats, to break it down, to give us a good understanding of what we're looking at, is the man that basically is called the Bon Jovi of stats and data, Mr. Sam. Welcome, Sam. I want to say as well, a massive welcome to one of my favorite people to host a channel. The New York Times called him compelling. The Sydney Morning Herald called him a breath of fresh air. I simply call him the Guru. If you get a chance, guys, to go to his channel, please go to MMA Guru. He's what's needed in the MMA community. I don't agree with every single thing he says all the time, but it's definitely needed to have someone like that on there to call people out and to keep them accountable. I hope that one day it would be my pleasure if one day I got big enough in this realm that the Guru calls me out on my shit and keeps me accountable. I would actually welcome that, because I think that we need someone to guard the guards. So welcome, Guru, to the chat. Thank you very much for being on here and for, getting people out interested in what we're doing and what we're saying, man, because he is pretty fucking amazing. Look at all these people Guru sent me. Awesome. Let's kick off, Sammy.
Yeah, so where do you want to start? Do you want to share your screen there? There we go.
I will start right here. Guys, if you have questions and that, we'll try and answer the questions as best we can. And from there, we're going to always try and back it up with stats. So we try and not have a lot of the things based on what we think or what our opinions of something could be. We're just going to try and do, boom, this is what the fight was, Teddy Evans, just want to give Teddy Evans a shout out, says, "What's going on, mate? Just you wait and see, Teddy Evans. Just you wait and see." Let's kick off, boys. Welcome to all the guys from the Guru. Another gentleman here says from the Guru, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the support. Thank you. Let's kick off.
Yeah, I actually found this one a little bit easier to kind of analyze as well, just in terms of, they're both standing up all the time, mainly except for that last part on the first round. So it's a little bit easier to kind of break down in comparison to some of the other fights where there's a lot of ground control and stuff like that. So it makes it a little bit harder to pick the rounds. In overall for the whole fight, probably the key one here on the left-hand side, you've got Adesanya versus Strickland in terms of total and significant strikes landed. So for the whole fight and the entire 5 rounds, Strickland landed 137 significant strikes to Adesanya's 94. And the probably the key thing as well is in terms of strikes thrown and landed. So in accuracy, Strickland landed, or he threw 259 strikes. He landed 137. And Adesanya threw more strikes. So he threw 271 strikes, but only landed 94. So Adesanya only had, in terms of significant strikes, only had a 35% accuracy to Strickland's 53% accuracy as well.
All right, I'm just going to say something really quickly. Guru Salem sends its regards. Thank you so much, sir. And I'm just going to give... The piggy is creator of Downfall of the Gino Bender. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm going to move right along and try and focus on the fight that happened. First of all, I want to give Sean his flowers. You know what I mean? He's the one that fucking did the work and won. You know, that's something that has to be focused on. Israel is a phenomenal champion as far as fighting is concerned. He's phenomenal. He really is. And you don't beat the guys that he's beaten by accident. This is no fluke, right? So it takes both of them to create this moment. In all of their controversy as well. Having said that, though, I rewatched the fight with the normal commentary, like with people doing the commentary. I watched the fight back with my commentary to see how I was reacting to the fight, and I thought Israel at the start of that fight looked good. Like, he looked sharp, and I could hear myself saying that he looked sharp. He had really good movement. He was moving in and out, side to side, feinting, throwing the shots. But Strickland looked composed. He looked very composed. He was doing a lot of really good little things, which I'm going to get into in a second, which will speak to some of the statistics that Sam has already mentioned. But man, the big thing, the changing point in that fight, of course, was when Strickland dropped him with a massive right hand and then fed him like a crazy spinster auntie, you know, like just fucking fed him. And I think it was something like 20 shots in that exchange. You know, if you're a fan of Lissy, fed him like aunties at a Colgate. And that changes the fight. You know, it changes the fight psychologically, it changes the fight tactically, and it changes the fight. It changes the whole thing, because Israel, how we were speaking about before, Israel generally starts off a little bit slow, wins the second round, and then we'll try and win, you know, three out of the next batch of rounds, or 2 out of the next batch of rounds, depending on which round we're talking about. In this situation, after that was like, there was no chance of anyone being able to give that round to Israel. There was no fucking chance whatsoever. And so that, I think, changed the mechanics of it. I don't think Israel looked stiff. I say all that to say this. I don't think Israel looked stiff. I don't think Israel looked slow. I disagree with Dana White on that. And to everybody else is saying Israel didn't look himself. I think Israel looked fantastic at the start of the fight. And then Sean cracked him. And I give Israel his credit for being as durable as he fucking is. You know, he's only been stopped twice, and they were both by the same person. He's a fucking heavy hitter. So he got you know, not many people have been able to do that to him. So the fact that he was even able to survive that from Sean speaks volumes of him. Just a second, people. Benny, come here. Okay, go downstairs. Sorry, my daughter's invaded us. Baby, take your sister downstairs, please. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was. I think it was testament to the ability that he has. You know what I mean? And his durability. But there was no way of that round being given to anyone other than Sean, and so that put a lot of pressure, I think, on Israel. There wasn't, you know, that. Then in the second round, if I'm not mistaken, Sam, that was Israel's best round, and it historically is his best round. Am I correct?
Yeah, so historically, in the past, or in his UFC fights at least, Adesanya always peaks in the second round and then starts to kind of taper off in the remaining rounds. But we attributed this last time to more that he knew he was kind of ahead in those first few rounds, so he could kind of pick his shots and didn't have to engage as much. Whereas obviously this is a bit different because he clearly lost that first round as well.
It's then after that, man, you're behind the 8 ball in that situation where you're trying to claw back some of the fight. So let's say now, basically Sean turned that into a 3-round fight, you know. So the first round, Sean, second round, Israel. Now let's see who wins these next few rounds. And Sean did one of the things that I thought, and it's not going to come up on the stats, I don't think, if there's any way you can do it. But one of the things that he did really, really, really well, everyone's talking about, some of the people are talking about his ability to parry and kill the jab and that, with his lead hand of Israel's, and to hold Israel's right hand with his jab. Even at times he was getting a 2-on-1 and throwing the front kick. But he did a few things, and this is one of the things that we spoke about before when we did the breakdown. His ability to kick with a kicker. You don't have to kick as good as Israel. You don't have to be hurting him with every shot, but you do have to make him move. You do have to make him move backwards, so it's harder for him to kick. You do have to make him have to check what you're going to do, and it makes him hesitate, and he's not able to throw his kicks when you're throwing front kicks down the middle, either off your lead foot or off your back foot, and Sean does that so well. So when he's doing these things in combination, Israel cannot get off. He cannot get his kicks off properly. And then when he's checking the kicks, even if they're partially checking because he's raising his leg, that's still not letting Israel get the shots the way he wants them to get going. I don't even know. Maybe he hurt Israel with one of those checks. But the biggest thing that I saw, that nothing happens, in a silo. So all of these things happen together. His defense and ability to slide in and out of range and then counter whenever Israel threw, he'd throw. But a lot of the times he would force Israel to go first. So Sean was getting into that range where Israel was no longer effective with his kicks and forcing Israel to go first so that he could counter Israel. And that was difficult, man, because you'd see him kind of freeze at times. And the other thing that Sean did, which is very, very, very smart, he would get Israel to the fence and then he would wait and then kind of show Israel the panel. Israel would go left or right and he'd scoot to the side, scoot laterally, and Sean would just follow him and walk him down. This is very, very fucking difficult to do. People do not understand this. Because you're facing him, you got him up against the cage, but you're not going. And the fact that you're not going means that he's waiting for you. His neural system starts to fatigue. This happened, the Diaz brothers were very good at doing this as well. But a lot of these guys, that's why when you get a guy up against the cage, you don't move backwards and give up the real estate. You just staying there makes them have to react to you. Then Israel would find the lateral movement that he needed and he'd get out. But Sean would simply rinse and repeat. And that over 5 rounds on top of the body shots. Now, I heard people say that Sean didn't land that many body shots, didn't go to the body, but we were looking at the stats, Sam and I, earlier. And I felt this in the fight, but then we looked at the stats and he actually worked the body of Israel much more than he has in a lot of other fights, in any other fight, I'd say. And a lot of that came by way of the teeps and the front kicks to the body. What he did was not easy to do. What I said, and I will maintain this, and I always said this, you're not going to beat Israel or even Alex Pereira or any of these guys by out grappling them if you're not a grappler. You're not going to just become this grappler. It's different if you're Hamzat or you're Bo Nickel or someone like this. It's a dyed-in-the-wool grappler that's a completely different level of grappler to anyone else in that division, at least. You're not going to do it because these are guys that know how to use range, that are tall, that hit hard. In particular, Israel is able to move really well laterally, and their whole game for MMA is built around getting back up and or stopping you from taking them down. The other thing with Israel, he's not a kickboxer turned MMA fighter. A lot of people don't realize this. He debuted around 2013, 2012, something like this, like 10 years ago in MMA, and kickboxing a little bit earlier. So this guy has been around the game for a long time, but what he's done is tailor his kickboxing to MMA. I think his striking is much better for MMA than it ever was for kickboxing, and he was a title challenger at Glory. So that's the level of guy that Israel is, and Sean beat him fair and fucking square. That's my take on it. Sammy, before we go to anything else, I was going to say, I was going to maybe answer some questions because we've got a lot of thingos here. Oh, Randy says, love your show, Fab. Thank you, Randy. And thank you, Randy. Young Pablo says, are we going to talk about only this for the next 15 minutes? We're going to talk about fighting for the next probably hour, Pablo. Pat W says, would you score that first round a 10-8, Fab? I don't know that I'd score it a 10-8. I don't know, because Israel did stuff as well. This is the thing that people, I'm glad you asked this question, because this is the thing that people don't understand about fighting. And Sean Strickland's one of the only people that have been actually honest about fucking the fights, you know what I mean? About actual fighting, or even about sport, you know? Like, anyone can win at any given time. I think that round, if Sean hadn't dropped him, this is the thing, if Sean hadn't dropped him, I don't know that I think Sean was winning it, but I'm saying I don't know that the judges would have given that round to Sean. Do you get what I mean? Then Israel won the second round, and then that fight would be completely different. Also, Israel could have clipped Sean at any given stage, and then everyone would be saying Sean's a fucking idiot, as if he'd stand with him, blah, 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 blah. And this is fighting, you know, you can get caught at any given time. And there's like this level of narcissism involved with fighters or with certain people or whatever, where it's like, dude, you can lose a fight. Like, this is not like, you know, it's incredible. They don't understand. It was like a fucking act of nature or something, you know, like a force of nature. No, it wasn't. It's a fight, and you can get caught. The other guy's a really good fighter too, or you can get out fought on any given day. It's not really, doesn't have to be this massive mystery. I think MMA has this massive revisionist history culture, and when people go back and they go, he should have ducked here when the right hand was coming and this and that, and it's like, nah, dude, like, sometimes you just lose, you know. You don't really have this, it's not like you fought 40 times and you can say this and that or the other. I said the same thing, like, everyone, like, there's so many fights, dude, I'm not even going to get into it, but there's so many fights that things, like, when you win, everyone goes, I won because I worked so hard and blah, blah, blah. The other guy worked hard too. It was your day. You know what I mean? It was your day. You could fight again 20 times and it might not work out that way. So I think that's an important thing to remember. So Randy says, what was behind Adesanya's bitch-ass move at the presser? He always has something to say. I had nothing to say on this loss. Do you think that it was his coach's fault? I don't know what happened with Adesanya. I don't know Adesanya. I don't know him. I don't know Eugene. I don't know any of them. I don't know what happened between them. I don't know if anything happened between them. I don't know. I don't know why he missed, like, why he didn't do the presser and he asked his coach to do it. I don't know. I can't answer that. Sorry, Sammy, I just wanted to answer a few of the questions that were on here.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Dillian Crozier says, thoughts on the marching style on the night. That's a lot of people use that style, in particular in Muay Thai. You see that a lot of people march their front foot in because it stops the other one. It mitigates some of the force of the leg kick that's coming at you because you're partially checking it. But two, it also makes a person hesitate. They don't know if you're kicking or not. And that's a really, really, really good way, if you're fighting a kicker, to make them hesitate, is to make them move back and to kick with them. If they're using the legs for anything other than kicking the shit out of you, then you're doing your job very, very well. And that's one of the things that Strickland did do very, very well. And guys, I apologize if I don't get to every single person's questions or anything like that. We'll try to, but we'll try and also give you our breakdown with our analytics. Sammy, if you want to take it from here.
No, I think what you said, you can see some of it in the data in terms of, say, for the total fight, for instance, Strickland hit him 45 times to the body. To Adesanya only landed 38 to the body. So those are those front kicks up the middle as well. Those front kicks and the strikes up to the body. In terms of the real difference in between the two fighters, and what they landed is, and kind of their strategic approaches was where they landed. So for the entire fight, Strickland landed 85 strikes to the head. Adesanya only landed 22. Strickland landed 7 strikes to the leg, and Adesanya landed 34. So, and then in terms of body strikes, they're kind of similar. Strickland has a slight edge over Adesanya there, but it's really Strickland was aiming for the head. Adesanya was aiming for or at least landing on the legs, but he really just couldn't land on the head in the same way that Strickland could.
Obviously, I think a lot of those were off the back of the jab. But man, the thing is that people go, now he see the blueprint. I definitely think Alex Pereira took a lot of the aura from Israel. I do believe this. In that fight in the UFC where he knocked him, where he stopped him, TKO'd him. But you also people underrate Sean. You know, I'll tell you something. Like for me, Sean was on my radar. I didn't think he'd be champion. I didn't think he'd be middleweight champion. I'm not saying this. Sorry, Axel Fox says, I believe the front kicks made Izzy tire faster. Absolutely. The front kicks to the body coupled with the extra movement that Israel had to do and Sean just walking him down absolutely made Israel tire faster. That's for sure. But I was always aware of Sean because at the time I was coaching Whitaker and they were welterweights together. And I saw him fight Tom Breese. And if you're English person, you know who Tom Breese is. And at the time, Tom Breese was fucking highly touted, right? And I knew who he was before he was in the UFC. Tom Breese, I'm talking about. And I remember thinking, fuck, this guy's good, you know? And at the time, before I started working with Rob had spent some time at TriStar and he'd spent some time with Tom Breese. They never really trained together, but Rob came back as well and he said, man, this is this kid from England and he's fucking good. He is fucking good. So shout out to Tom Breese. And you know, this is what Rob had said. This guy's fucking good, you know? And so I went and I researched Tom Breese and he was the man, you know, he was good. And then I saw him fight Strickland after Tom Breese had beat Cathal Pendred. And Strickland beat him in a split decision. But he didn't, man, the way, like Strickland looked good doing it. And I thought, this guy's fucking good from back then, you know? So I always knew he was good. I just didn't know he was that good. You know what I mean? And then when we're talking about what's next, sorry to jump all over the place, Sammy. I just got what I think is next as well. I don't want to see in the middleweight division just the top 4 or 5 guys just recycling over and over like there's anyone else. I want to see some of the new blood come through, and I definitely think that the winner of Imavov and Aliskerov should enter the discussion in that group there, because Imavov lost 5 rounds on short notice, right? And that loss has aged well. Do you know what I mean? Now that you see he didn't lose like Israel lost. Do you know what I mean? And that was a short notice taking Strickland, and Strickland's a very crafty, tricky character, as you can see. So, man, I don't know. Randy says, congratulations on your accurate prediction. I know you picked Israel, but you accurately predicted how Sean would win if he did. I'm amazed and impressed. I haven't heard anyone else be so accurate. How did you know? It makes me sound like I'm a fucking soothsayer. No, I in fairness, I didn't know that he would win. I didn't think that he would win. I thought Israel would win, but the only way that he was going to win was that way. Like the way people talk about grappling, that people don't understand. There's a 5-minute round, right? You're not going to get Israel down like bang straight away, especially he's watching you. He's long. He's setting up traps and he's framing on you so that you can't get in. If it takes you, even if you're a good grappler and it takes you 2 minutes to get him down, to work him out, get him down, you only have 2 minutes to work. He's not trying to grapple you. He's trying to get back to his feet. So unless you're like a Bo Nickel type of character or you're a Hamzat or something like that, you're not going to out-grapple him for 5 rounds. You're not going to do that. And you're not going to, even if you can do that, you're not going to do that and not get tired. It's very hard, not with any of the weapons that the current batch have. The current batch have their own weapons, but it's also very difficult to change and be someone completely different to what you are and try and beat someone. Sean had the game to do it, like I said in the predictions. I just didn't think that he would. I didn't think he'd be able to. And I'll just repeat what I said really quickly. I said, if he can steal a round at the start, if he can win the first round, Israel will win the second, and then Sean has to win rounds in the back end, which when we did the breakdown, you can see that Sean is way busier than Israel in the last few rounds. And he usually starts off better than Israel, but Israel gets a second round off. It'd have to happen perfectly like that without Israel hurting him, and it fucking did. I'm not a soothsayer. I just went off Sam's stats and what I've seen in the fights, but I still picked Israel. Sorry, Semi.
Now, I think there's kind of two defining things about the first round that you can really pull out in the stats as well. So the main difference was the strategy and where the shots were targeted by each of them and where they actually landed. So Strickland had a headshot accuracy of, he landed 22 of 42 strikes. So he's, landing at 52% accuracy. Whereas Adesanya he threw 20 strikes to the head, but he only landed one in that first round. So, he's thrown at a 5% accuracy for head strikes, but he landed more, landed more strikes to the legs. So he landed 8 of 12 to the legs as well. Whereas, Strickland only landed 4 of 6. So, and then probably the other part for the first round, and which you mentioned before, if he didn't knock him down, and obviously it's if he didn't knock him down and have that subsequent kind of barrage of strikes afterwards, if you remove those, he actually threw 14 or 24 in total after that kind of knockdown, and he landed 16 of them. So if you actually remove those 16 that he landed, Izzy would have been up for that round.
Yeah, that's something that people miss. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that, would have, could have, should have. I'm just saying, like, fight's a fight. If he hadn't landed that shot and Israel won that first round, then he would have won, and he won the second. Then it's a different fight. You know what I mean? Israel only has to win one round of the next few. So, and then everyone will be saying Sean's shit. But that fucking thing, the way that it worked out, full credit to Sean. Fight's a fight. It's tough. I'm just going to answer a few of these questions, or a few of these statements rather. Sack says a front kick is majorly underrated. The front kick to the hip cancels all movement and power generation. It's a jab of the lower body. Agreed. Oliver Ekman says he's from another Alex at Randy. Sorry if I miss some of the ones, guys. I can't answer them all. John Wayne says, why didn't Izzy's corner press him in round 4 or 5 to be more offensive? It seems like Eugene felt comfy with how things went. If that's the case, he's a yes man or afraid to tell Izzy he's losing the fight. I don't think that's fair on Eugene. Like, I really don't. I don't even fucking know Eugene, to be honest with you. I'm not like a Eugene fanboy, or fucking not even close to it. Like, I don't have any horse in the race in that. But it's unfair to say that to him now. You know what I mean? I don't think that that's the case. I don't know. I think Israel tried a few times like that. He did come out and throw some leather at the start of the fight, but it's fucking hard to do that. And it's hard to do that with any sort of continuity when you're not gaining success with it. Like, Sean's like Marvin Hagler, Philly Shell kind of fucking stance. Man, Israel's shots were all coming to the head, and he was able to slide in and out and put his hands up and parry and lift his legs up and then start to take that energy. And he landed the body shots and he made him run. You don't have the energy to just bang, go, all right, I'll go hell for leather. He just doesn't have it in him at that point in the fight. Nathan Gorman says, does this loss change your mind as to who is the middleweight GOAT? I see a lot of people write off Israel, but his resume is better than Silva in terms of competition. Man, it's very hard to compare people outside of their eras, right? I do think that whilst it's probably out of them two, as far as middleweight GOATs is concerned, but there's other guys that did a lot of cool shit at middleweight. Henderson did a lot of cool stuff. He had 2 belts. People forget this in pride in that. But Anderson beat him. But Anderson never fought Rockhold, and he never fought Jacare, and they were around at the same time. I think that prime Jacare, prime Rockhold are bad matchups for Anderson and for Adesanya, because they are 2 guys that are actual fucking grapplers. You know what I mean? So it's just different. I don't think Jacare or Rockhold can be best middleweight ever. They just don't have the resume. But it's also like hard to compare people outside of eras, and hard to compare people on like head to head, because sometimes like you have a guy that would have been like middle of the pack in one era, but that's just had the game to beat the champion in another era. It's hard to say. Mario Gomez says Adesanya's safety first mindset cost him the victory. If being defensive is the game plan, surely you change it mid-fight. I don't think that was necessarily the game plan per se. It's just, man, you got to give Sean the credit, man. Like Sean did. It's hard to work someone out the way that what Sean was doing, because a lot of what Sean was doing had more to do with timing and more to do with as well what he wasn't doing. He wasn't rushing in to try and get at Israel once he was in range. He wasn't trying to out-grapple Israel and waste energy and a whole bunch of shit. Like, that's what people don't understand. That's why the plans that people thought Sean was going to do, it's not what Sean did, man. Because once you're in there with Israel and you realize the range and you realize this guy's waiting for me to wrestle him, he understands this, and you're going to waste energy getting him down, not doing a lot, and Israel's going to get back to his feet. You're going to be more tired. But in fact, what Sean made him do was get on his bike and moves, which was pretty cool. Pep Guard says, how much of Sean's talk in the press conference affected Izzy? All of that, all the stuff that he said, basically. Do I think Israel felt betrayed by the fans? I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know what goes on in people's heads. But I will say this, man, and I'm not saying that just because he was involved with us today, then he's guys like MMA Guru, like, you're watching stuff, not just with Israel, but you're just watching shit in general. And this happens to me. I'm not a fucking hater. I don't know, like, hold on one sec. Yeah, I'm not a hater. I don't have any fucking thing, but there's things that I'm watching and I think, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Not necessarily with Israel. I watch commentators, I watch fucking media figures and all this shit, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Is it only me? Like, sometimes I think I'm mad. I'm like, am I the only fucking person that sees this? Am I the only person that hears this? But a few years ago, I heard MMA Guru by accident, and I was like, yeah, this guy fucking gets it. You know what I mean? Because it's shit that's just normal. Like, you can't. So I don't know if he felt betrayed or not. I don't know how much it affected him. But there are people like MMA Guru now who's got like 150,000 followers or whatever he has. And so now when it does keep people accountable, not necessarily just Israel, but just people in general, it does. And I think you need that, because there's shit that you just like, dude, that's not what happened in that fight. What are you fucking talking about? Or man, I was listening to Ariel Hawani talking to, and I never want to get into the gossip, but I just to give you an idea, because as well, people go, look at the shit decisions that happened in the fight and blah, blah. But Ariel Hawani was talking to Curtis, the Strickland's fucking friend and training partner. And he said it like it was just what it is. He goes, so, Israel didn't look good in this fight. Like, it was a fucking given. And Curtis was like, no, he looked like he always looks. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? So you want to start this narrative, and then people just listen to it. And some of these guys have millions of followers. And so you create narratives. So it's good to have someone like the Guru and that they go, no, that's not the narrative. That is the narrative, but that's not what's real, So I think that shit affects, but I don't know, because I don't know Israel, dude. I don't know him like that. I've met him a few times, but I don't know him. You know what I mean? So I don't know how much it affects him or not, Sammy?
Yeah, so I can probably wrap it up for the first round anyway, but yeah, I've got it all there. So really the key difference in that first round is the strikes to the head from Sean, and obviously those the strikes after he dropped him and those ground strikes. Moving on to the second round, though, obviously it was a bit of a better round for Adesanya, which is historically that's what he's done in the past as well. He's kind of felt out in that first round and then picked it up in the second and then started to taper off. But again, just for different reasons as well. So in the second round, Adesanya's landed 20 of 64. So he's thrown a lot more and he's landed a bit more as well. But Sean's landed only 16 of 32. So Sean's, he's landing at a 50% accuracy, whereas Adesanya's still only landing, at 30, 31, 32% in that second round. And it's also, again, it's Adesanya, it's not that he's not targeting the head, he's just not landing. So he landed only 3 of 35 strikes to the head in that second round.
Which is very telling, like a lot of people talking about fucking like laughing at Strickland. That's my point. See, people talking about Strickland's defense and they're laughing at his defense or whatever. Because he got knocked the fuck out by Alex Pereira, who can knock anyone out. But then his defense against Israel was fucking spot on. You know what I mean? And it's just the fight game, man. It's not. Yeah. Anyways, go on, Sammy, please.
Now it's fairly consistent too in terms of I suppose their strategies, or at least just the defense of Adesanya compared to the defense of Strickland. So obviously he's landing at, Strickland's landing at like 50%, but then in terms of like head strikes, he's landing at like exactly 50%. So he landed 11 of 22 head strikes. He wasn't obviously aiming to the body as well. He only threw 2 leg strikes and didn't land either of them, or didn't count as landing either of them. And he's landed like 5 of 8 strikes to the body as well. Whereas Adesanya, like he landed, he threw 17 leg strikes. He landed 10 of them. So he's landing more leg strikes on Strickland, but just those head strikes he just couldn't connect with.
I just want to say on that as well, though, whilst he's landing some of those kicks are being partially checked. And when you throw a kick and it doesn't land right, like a leg kick, and Stu McKinnon said this to me, and like he's just talking about like how, Stu McKinnon was a world champion in kickboxing and that, and he was just saying how when you throw the kick and you check it like kind of at a right angle sometimes, and you hit like foot on knee, it just how it changes things, So some of those strikes that are being tallied as significant strikes for Israel in real time are probably significant strikes for Sean if he checks them like that. You know what I mean? And so that's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? Like I think because you don't realize like those kicks, man, that he checked Israel's kicks. And like I said, to me, Israel looked good. I don't think, it's hard, man. It's also hard. I don't think it's fair to pile on Eugene either, because like it's hard. You can only do so much as a cornerman. You know what I mean? And there's only so much you can do, and there's only so much you can say. And sometimes you have a puzzle in front of you and you just don't have the answers for it there and then, Here's a thing that I ask, because, when we talk about what's next, well, what is next? Do we, even going off the stats and everything, Sammy, like looking at it, it doesn't really seem like it was a close fight, like looking at the stats. And it doesn't really seem like it was a close fight when you saw it. And he was coming off a loss against Israel. After the fight, I did say it'll be an immediate rematch. I'm not saying it necessarily because it's the most deserving thing in the world. I just think the UFC is going to give an immediate rematch, regardless of what I think should happen, because I think probably the fight to make is, as far as like, which the UFC is, it's not about this, and I'm not having a go at them. I just know it's not. Dricus versus Sean. I would like to see the winner of Aliskerov and Imavov enter the chat somewhere in that group of top 5. I would like, I don't know if Israel fights the winner of Costa and Hamzat, or he faces the loser of those, and maybe I'm not a fan of Rob versus Cannon yet. I don't know. I don't know why, but that doesn't really do it for me, that fight. I don't know. But out of those guys, that's probably, it's not so much who I think should fight, but I think Dricus has earned the number 1 spot. You don't beat Rob. I don't believe you can beat Rob and not get the number 1 contendership, especially when he beat Rob. He didn't beat Rob when he was fucking 47. He beat a fucking killer, dude. He beat a fucking proper killer in Rob. And then so what's next? You know what I mean? I don't know. I think though that's what I would like. But what I think will happen is Israel will fight the winner. Israel will fight Strickland, and that's going to be a while away because whilst neither of them came out of that injured, like that bone bruising takes a long time to heal, you know, and Strickland just won the belt. No manager in their right fucking mind are going to say to him, just get rid of the belt straight away, mate. He's going to take his time a little bit, get endorsements, do whatever he can if they're 1% smart. So it'll be Israel and Sean, and then probably Dricus or Hamza will fight the winner. If you're in Dricus's corner, you're going to say, mate, you're going to have to try and hold on to that and just think he's next cab in the ranks. But if Hamza can go out, who knows? You know, maybe Costa can get another fight with Israel. I'm not sure. Anyways, as you were saying,
no, just in that second round, as well. So, like, this was kind of Adesanya's best round in comparison to Sean in that second round. So he's landed 20 significant strikes, so Sean 16. So he's slightly up on that, but it's just where he's landing. Sean's landing on the head, Izzy's landing on the legs and on the body. It's also kind of interesting too that Adesanya he threw double the amount of strikes that Strickland threw. So he dramatically increased his workload, but he only still landed 31% of the time. Whereas, Strickland was much more efficient, landing at 50% as well.
Sorry, go.
No, and that's kind of consistent as well as we move into the next ones as well. So, like into round 3 as well. So, into round 3, Strickland's he threw 41 and he landed 20. So he's just under that 50% mark. Whereas Adesanya landed 21 of 57. So it was that third round. He increased his accuracy a bit more, so he's landing at like 37% or so in total compared to but Strickland's still well above and still landing at like 50% as well.
When somebody asked you an interesting question, and just looking off the back of the stuff that you said, somebody, where is it? Because what are the pros and cons of Strickland's upright stance, pressure stalking approach, and what could Izzy do different next time? It's not that the fight doesn't interest me. It actually does interest me from just a technical perspective. From a middleweight ecosystem perspective, it doesn't interest me, the fight. You know what I mean? I'd like to see some movement there. He lost fair and square. He just had a rematch recently. That's a different thing. But if they fight again, right? And in fairness, let me say this. Again, I'm not an Israel fanboy or anything like that, but it's not like Israel's the only guy in the fucking UFC that gets favorable matchups or allowed to have call shots or allowed to have title fights when fucking probably shouldn't have them. So anyways, having said all of that, what could Israel do differently next time? I think that when you look at the stats, like what Sammy was saying earlier, like there really wasn't a lot of body work from Israel. Is that correct, Sammy?
He had, like, say, if you look at that third round in particular, he did have slightly more than Strickland, but it's more just like he still threw more as well. Whereas really the difference is like the strikes landing at the head compared to Adesanya. Like in that third round, Adesanya threw 27 to the head and only landed 4 of them.
I don't think that he could keep. I don't think that in this particular fight he could keep Sean off him. You know what I mean? And I think one of the big benefits to how he walks, like everyone has seen like the things that, the way that he parries and that if you can left hook the way that fucking Pereira does, but there's only like Pereira, Rob's got a good left hook like that, like that covers distance. There's not many other guys are going to land a left hook like that on Sean, and no one has, so he's got a lot of benefits to him. Not necessarily that style that he has and the tactics that he used on Israel are not going to be able to be done by somebody else. You're not going to be able to emulate that. Unless you're Strickland and you've been fighting like that for a long time, you're not going to be able to emulate that. So that's just fucking forget that. So let's concentrate on what you're saying. What could Izzy do different next time? And I do think that next time, Israel, fuck, man, the thing as well is, I was right when I said, like, no, he's not going to clinch. He's not going to wrestle, because clinching and wrestling, it allows Israel, one, to defend your takedowns, you to use energy. But in the clinch, Israel's no fucking joke, dude. Israel's going to knee and elbow you in the clinch. You know, that's his background in that kind of kickboxing. Although in the K1, there are no elbows, but I'm sure Israel knows how to fucking elbow. You've seen him elbow. So it's if he can get into that range, trying to cut Sean, trying to elbow him, trying to knee him. But I think that would serve Israel well, even if he can't get it to the ground or can't finish it or can't dominate him on the ground. But being able to have the threat of a takedown, and he's athletic enough to do it, and he's shown that he can. Like, it's not like he can't wrestle. He can wrestle, you know. So the threat of the takedown and putting a wrinkle into that game, I think, would help him immensely. To just be able to keep Sean off him a little bit, break up the attack, because Sean dictated absolutely everything. Israel couldn't get Sean moving backwards, which is kind of, Israel wants to do that. He wants to counter you, he wants to lure you in, walk you onto his shots. But then when you start moving back, he starts coming forward and feinting and making you move and countering you. That's his game. That's what he wants to do. And Sean did not let him do it. Yeah, I don't think that it's fucking good for the division necessarily, but I don't think that the UFC gives a shit like that about things. They're looking at it for their own thing, and I do think Israel's going to get the rematch. You know, like, yes, Dricus deserves it, but I think that's what's going to happen. Okay, let me see. Anyways, you were saying, Sammy?
Just continuing with that third round, it was fairly even in terms of, like, there was only one extra punch or one extra strike landed from Izzy over Sean. And then, but it's really of where it landed. That probably was the key indicator for that one. So Strickland's landed 12 strikes to the head compared to Adesanya's 4. He's landed 8 strikes to the body to Adesanya's 10. So Adesanya had a slight edge in terms of body strikes. And then obviously leg strikes, he's landed 7, and Sean, didn't land any leg kicks. But in terms of, like, just actual significant strikes, Adesanya has a slight edge, but it's also obviously where those strikes are landing. So, Strickland's landed 3 times as many to the head that Adesanya did.
And you know what? Like, you can really see it in Adesanya's face, like how, like, it was swollen and banged up. And Sean said that this is true. Like, Adesanya's black, like, he is black, and so you can't see the cuts and the bruising like you could. Like, if Adesanya was white, like, his face would be bruised up, like banged up. You see it with white guys when they get kicked in the legs or when they get punched in the face or something, and you can see the welts and the cuts straight away. I remember, and then some people's skin just doesn't show it. Like Anderson Silva, fuck, man, I've never seen him even have a black eye properly. You know what I mean? You don't really see it. Some people don't. They don't bruise the same. And if you're darker, it's even harder to see. Like there's a guy who, keep your eye out for this guy, is training with us right now. I don't want to put pressure on the young fellow. His name's Trent, but I was just looking at him I saw a photo of him. He's the whitest guy I've ever seen. Like, he would get burnt under fluorescent lights, and he was just outside at something with his family, and he was red as a fucking beetroot. The only person there that was red like that. There were other white guys, but he was fucking red. Like, he looked like he was going to die. Yeah, and people just get fucking, like, and he got cut the other day training, just like this little tiny cut, and you could see it so clearly, So if Israel wasn't as dark as he is, you'd see the bruising even more in his face and the swelling. So that was very telling as well. Sammy?
Yeah, so moving on to that 4th round as well. like Strickland clearly had an advantage in that 4th round, but he had an advantage in terms that he landed nearly double the amount of strikes that Adesanya did. So he landed 38. Adesanya only landed 20. He was also like a lot more efficient as well. So, in the 4th round. So in the 4th round, Adesanya actually picked it up a bit in terms of accuracy. So Strickland's
that's that part as well. Sorry, that's that part. You know, people go, why didn't Adesanya come out stronger? He fucking tried to. And it's evidenced in the stats, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, you're saying?
Yeah, so his accuracy for head strikes in particular. So he kind of changed his maybe changed his tactic or how he was doing it or whatever. But in all the other rounds, and including the 5th round, Adesanya, his main, like wherever he landed was mostly to the legs and to the body, and then minimal to the head. Whereas in the 4th round, he's landed 10 strikes to the head, 7 to the body, and 3 to the legs. He just couldn't also match Strickland. So Strickland landed double to the head, 22 to the head, 15 to the body, and only 1 to the legs in that 4th round. Adesanya increased his accuracy in terms of strikes to the head as each round progressed, except for the 5th. So for the 1st round, he only landed 5% to the head, and then slightly increased at 8% in the 2nd round. The 3rd round was like 15% or so. Adesanya landed to the head. And in that 4th round, Adesanya did pick up his work rate, and he landed like 29% to the head there. Whereas, Strickland for each of the rounds is landing around 52% of his strikes to the head. And yeah, the same thing for the 4th round. He's landed about 48% to the head. So Adesanya did pick up that work rate. It's just so did Sean in that 4th round.
That's exactly. It's good to see it with the stats too, because a lot of the times, like, people are saying that, and man, not that Eugene Bareman needs me to defend him, or that Israel does that. I don't even fucking. It's not a thing. But when people are saying, why didn't they tell him to pick it up? He fucking tried. You know what I mean? He fucking tried. But people aren't giving Strickland the credit that he deserves, and instead they're saying Adesanya was fucking off. It's his coach's fault or whatever. Dude, he fought they're all killers, dude. They're all killers. You got to remember this. That's why as well, when we're talking about what's next, right? Let me start. In that fight, he did try, but Sean met him and surpassed him in that 4th round. Sean was fresher. Sean didn't take the body shots in the same way. Sean landed clear front kicks down the middle to the body, and he made Israel be on his bike the whole fight. It takes a lot of energy off you when you're moving backwards like that and somebody's walking you down. Walking is our most efficient way of transport, as human beings. So when we're talking about what's next, there are guys, man, that would be very interesting to see fight. Those guys that are in the top 10, 11, 12, guys like Imavov, guys like Aliskerov. Excuse me if I'm forgetting some others there, but I'm just saying these types of guys that are going to be very competitive with these top 5 guys, and they're going to bring in new blood, and it's going to change a few things up. I still believe that, there's a marked difference between a few of those top guys there, but I don't know anymore. I don't know. I want to see them. I just want to see them fight. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to see these guys. I just want to see a bit of new blood in there. I don't want to see what happened like at lightweight, where you had guys like fucking Benil Dariush have to win, I don't know, 150 fucking fights in a row, and then, get knocked out against Charles Oliveira, and then that's his thing. Like, he could have been in that mix much earlier, Sorry, Sammy, you were saying?
No, it's just, in that 4th round, Adesanya definitely picked it up, but it was really that was a kind of a key one as well, where it shifted focus. He had kind of less focus on the legs and the body and more focus on the head, and it actually worked for him. But then it just also worked that Sean was doing the exact same things and just more of it.
I think by that stage as well, the pressure is really bad because Israel knows that at that stage now he needs a knockout, and leg kicks aren't going to do it. I've never seen Israel in a position where he has to come out and chase the fight and chase the knockout. I've never seen that. And that's the first time it's happened. And yeah, like that's what happened.
Moving to that fifth and final round as well, Adesanya kind of went like he was still aiming to the head. Like he threw 37 head strikes, but he only landed 4 of them. So, what's that, like 11%? He's actually his accuracy went back down to 11% as well. So he kind of peaked in that fourth round in terms of accuracy at like 28%, and then went back down to 11%. And again, like Strickland's landed 36 significant strikes in that last round compared to Adesanya's 21. And yeah, the main focus is the head and the body. So he's landed, 4 times as many head strikes as Adesanya did, and he's landed more body strikes as well. So he's landed 16 body strikes to Adesanya's 11 in that fifth and final round.
Sammy, I'm going to ask you, what do you think should happen with the middleweight division?
Oh, I'm definitely the worst person to ask about that.
Do you think there should be a rematch? He just had one against Pereira.
Yeah, I think there should be a rematch. He's been, middleweight champ for so long, and then he definitely deserves a rematch. And I think...
do you think he does that? Because he just had one. He just had a rematch. It's not like he's been the champion the whole way through. Because he had the belt. He had a very warranted rematch against Pereira, which he won. So that is actually not an unbroken line. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
It's not like... So does he deserve a rematch over Dricus?
I think the fact that Sean won and everyone discounted him, I think, just from a UFC perspective, in terms of having it on, they'll have a rematch and just, how many more
they
people
will
are
have
tune
one.
in?
100%.
So,
100%. 100% they're going to have a rematch. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another guy, Hyena95 just brought this up. Sharaputin Magomedov is in the mix as well. I want to see how good he is against his UFC opponents. I want to see these guys that are outside that upper echelon of the top 5. I want to see some movement amongst them. Magomedov, your fucking like I said, Imavov, Aliskarov. Even if they win or lose, I don't give a shit. I just would like to see some matchups with those guys, even a Brendan Allen. These guys, I'd like to see some of these matchups with the changing of the guard to see what's what, like who's who and what's what. I don't think all of the old guard is going to keep their spots if that were to happen. That's a little bit unorthodox what I'm saying, but I do think that I'd like to see some of these matchups, and especially after seeing Imavov go 5 rounds with Sean and the way he did it. Like he did lose a fight clearly, but I think people now are starting to give Sean a lot more respect, after what he did with Israel. So I guess, man, we're coming to the end of the show. Is there anything you'd like to add, Sammy, before we say thank you to everyone and move on?
No, just I also thought it was interesting when we did the lead up to it, we picked Adesanya for the win. But you'd also picked on how, if Sean was to win, how he could win. I just also thought it was interesting to think that Adesanya is such a good striker in all these other fights and everything else. And he, what Sean could bring to the table. I remember you saying that Adesanya, there's nothing that Sean has that Adesanya hasn't seen in the past.
That's right. I did say that.
So what was the kind of key difference in this fight?
Okay, give me 1 sec and I'll answer that. I just want to do this. MMA Guru says, hope you enjoyed the stream, man. Have a good one. I'm done for the night. And he gave us 20 pounds, a fucking champion of a bloke that he is. Now, thank you very much, Guru, and thank you for putting our name out there. And thank you to all the Guru followers that came on to our show. And hopefully you'll come and watch our show more often. Always shout out the MMA Guru. man, I've always liked watching your stuff. So keep it going, man. Thank you very much, guys, and welcome to all the Guru followers. And I hope you guys keep watching our show. Now, Sammy, in answer to your question, sorry, Juice. Ask again what you said, because I didn't see what you said, man. I'm not trying to snub anyone. I'm sorry if I couldn't get through every single question or every single statement that people made. So please do, guys. So, Sammy, you were saying to me, what did Sean bring to the table that Israel hasn't seen before, that Israel couldn't counter? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
I think that the way that Sean was able to stand at range, sorry. I now see James Lee. Thank you. Yeah. If you haven't already, guys, please subscribe. Please like and subscribe and share the page, share the show. I'd love for people to follow us. Thank you so much, guys. I really, really, really thank you. I think that Sean was able to come into work his way into range, right? And then control the range, which is something not a lot of people are able to do. The biggest thing that I saw with Sean, man, was how disciplined, how patient he is. I do believe that a lot of Sean's stuff, I think he's a very real person, but a lot of the stuff that he has is like, he has a lot of affectations, that make people believe a certain thing about him that isn't true. I think he's an incredibly smart guy, an incredibly disciplined person, and he's very aware of who he is in his limitations as a man and as a fighter. And so once you understand your parameters, you can operate really, really well within those parameters. And he knows what he's going to be really good at and what Israel's not. And he's very, very disciplined. So when he backed Israel up to the cage, the biggest thing that I believe that he showed Israel was when he wouldn't go, he'd stand just outside of Israel's range, and he was able to counter. So if Israel threw something, he was able to counter straight away, and he'd connect. But then he would just wait and make Israel go first, or make Israel move. And usually the octagon works in Israel's favor because it's big and he loves the movement and he's able to do it and then counter you and make you move back. But this time it worked against him because Sean made him get on his bike and cover a lot of distance. And Sean wasn't in a hurry to try and take him down, or wasn't in a hurry to try and swing on him or try and knock him out. Sean was very disciplined and very patient and controlled the range. In a nutshell, that's what he did. I believe that nobody else has done. Tarzan says, in the event of a rematch, I can see Dricus fighting the winner of Kostov Chimaev and Rob against the loser if he's not keen on a rematch. Rob stated he wants top-ranked guys only. I mean, Rob is right up there. I don't think there should be any question as to who Rob's going to be fighting. Like, he's right in that mix. I mean, he just lost to Dricus. It's not like he's lost fucking 13 fights in a row or something. So if he's fighting these top guys, yeah, he's in that mix. It could be any one of those guys for him. And I would always favor Rob amongst any of those guys. So, yeah. James Lee says, Pereira followed Izzy the second fight. He didn't cut the cage. He followed. Sean cut the cage. Sean cut the cage, but at times he followed Izzy. The difference in the two, I believe, is that Sean was purposefully doing that. There's a difference when you follow people and you don't know really what you're doing. Sean was putting Izzy on his bike, giving Izzy the option. Like, he'd cut the cage off on him, then he'd show him the panel. If you watch the fight again, like, he'd cut the cage off, then he'd show him a panel so that Israel had a way out, and then he'd follow Israel. He was very clever with it. And sorry, Sammy, anything else?
No, not for me.
Guys, let us know. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you to all the people that have followed from the very, very start. Thank you to the new followers. Thank you to the MMA Guru and the guys from his show that came over and watched. And I hope you guys come over and watch more often because we love it. If any of our guys that don't know about the MMA Guru, you got to go over there. You got to listen to his content. He is completely different to the way we do stuff and what we're doing, but he's very, very cool. You need people like that. You need someone to guard the guards. And now let us know in the comments what you think, who you think should be next. and how you think the breakdown should be in the middleweight division. Also, let us know what fights you want us to break down, and we'll see about if we can break them down for you using data, lies, dirty lies, and statistics. Guys, thank you once again. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you and take care.